be with you. So, yeah, I think, as Marlon said, I've been doing a fair amount of traveling in the last 2 to 3 weeks. I've been in Bangkok, I've been in the US, and tomorrow I fly to where am I going tomorrow? To Zurich. So I have a sales explosion program to do in Zurich, which is pretty cool. I was there earlier in the year, so we're doing another one. So, yeah, great to be back for a night or two, and great to be with you guys on this webinar. So, yeah, as Marlon was saying, we decided to change it up a little bit, call it the Entrepreneurial Hangout. And the reason was this is, there's a lot of stuff that goes into becoming an entrepreneur. And when we talk about various things, we were talking about sales, we were talking about finance. What I've realized is those are constant topics that pretty much need to be talked about all the time. So I'm going to kick off tonight, as I try to do all normally, and just ask you to type in some questions that I can help answer, if I can, around things that you're having issues with in your business, things that you need help on, anything to do with sales, entrepreneurship, running a business, and money. So why don't I give you 30 seconds or so and see who comes up with a couple of questions or things that I can help you with. So type away, and we'll go from there. Let's see who can come up with something. While you guys are typing, is anyone new onto this webinar? If you are, just type into the chat box. Ntlantla, welcome. Susan, welcome. Great to have you guys on for the first time. So, Susan, you made me laugh. Martin, welcome. Very new as opposed to new. So I'm just going to ask, what qualifies you to be new versus very new? That's got me chuckling. Okay, cool. So a couple of new people, well done. So any questions? Come on. There's got to be some things that have been hassling you in your business, things that you're worried about in sales. What about things around money? What questions do you have? Okay, so question from Michael. Barry, you always mention that business requires action and energy. The problem I have is that I feel overwhelmed by all the things I have to do when you have a one-man band business. Do you feel the same? Okay, well, that's an interesting question. So, Michael, when I first started my business, at times I used to feel the same. Do I feel the same now? No. There's a couple of reasons for that. So I'm going to go through that. But the first thing that I want to look at with you is, because I spoke to someone else about it the other day, and I just want to talk to you about first of all, what do you understand overwhelmed to be? So, I've learned from one of my wife's mentors, Seal Stanford, who teaches her everything around sort of helping people shift mindsets, and learn from a guy called Alan Walters, that the understanding of a word is critical right up front. So let's just have a look at the word overwhelm or overwhelmed. So overwhelmed, to search over and submerge, engulf, or to defeat completely and decisively, to affect deeply in mind or emotion, to present with an excessive amount, to turn over or upset. So how many of you at times in your business feel as though you're submerged or engulfed? So when you feel you're submerged or engulfed, there's a couple of things that you need to put in place. Now, note, Michael says as a one-man business. Well, the first thing is when you find chaos, Michael, is when you encompass or when you come into chaos, which can create that feeling of submerging or engulfing. Then what you need to do is you need to look at your systems. So, in any business, and I'll do a recap for those of you that might be new here, or I'll go through this for the first time for those of you that might be new, but I'll do a recap for those of you that aren't. So let's just go to this. When we look at a business, and that's why we go through this, Michael, is because, okay, so hopefully you guys can see this okay. So let's look at our, when we look at a business, Michael, you've seen this, you would have seen this a number of times. When you look at a business, there's three critical things that you have to be able to do. One, you have to be able to sell, okay? Two, you have to be able to build a team. Now, one of the things that gets us away from this feeling of overwhelm, this feeling that we have too many things on the go, is our ability to be able to build this thing called a team. So my question to you first up, Michael, is what are you doing to build a team? And who do you need on your team? I see too many small to medium-sized operators that need people on their team, but they're not bringing them on the team because they have a fear of losing money. How many of you can connect with what I've just said? So they have a fear of losing money, so that they don't bring people onto their team. But it's essential that you start building a team. So when you start creating and building a team, that allows you to be able to focus on the things that you need to focus on, which allows you to get out of that feeling of overwhelm. The second thing you need to be able to do when you bring on this team is you have to be able to teach. If you can't teach, then you can't have a team. So your ability to teach, your ability to get people to do the things that are needed to be done when and how you need them done, and also to get them to be able to do it when you're not around is essential, and that is the component of teaching. So that's why these three key areas of sell, team, teaching are critical. Why sales? Well, pretty simply, as some of you will know, sales equals income. So the better you learn how to sell, the more income you earn. The more income you earn, the more you can invest in building a team. The more you teach your team, the more you sell, the more sales generate income. So you keep working through this process. Okay. So the other side of feeling overwhelmed comes from mindset. That's why when we work with business owners, when we work with entrepreneurs in any of our rooms and around sales, the first and most important thing that we work on is we work on this. We work on your little voice. Why your little voice? Because that's the thing that creates overwhelm. So I've just learned, in my business, the more work I've done on myself, the more work I've done on reprocessing my mind, the easier it has been for me to do the things I need to be able to do. And it's allowed me, the more I've worked on my little voice and on my mind, has allowed me to play a much bigger game. And that's really what overwhelm is, Michael. It just stops us from playing a game that we want to play, which is just bigger than anything else. So that feeling of overwhelm is I would suggest, Michael, that what you need to do is you need to really stop working, if you're not, on that little voice, and working with somebody that can help you unpack it and work through the process of sorting that little voice out. The second part of Michael's question is, I also find difficulty in adapting to all the IT requirements that are necessary to run a business and don't have the time nor patience to learn all this stuff. I'm going to go back to what I said just now, Michael. That is why having a team is essential. Who can you have on your team? Now, having a team doesn't necessarily need to mean you need to employ people. You know, Marlon runs all my social media stuff, runs all our webinars, all those type of things. And Marlon, I don't employ you, do I? You work for yourself. You have your own business.
Correct.
Yeah. So Marlon has his own business. He works with us. He's part of our team. Are you an integral part of our team, Marlon?
Yes.
You probably work harder than if you were an employee, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you come to all our events?
I do.
Do you serve in the rooms at all our events?
Correct.
Yeah. So Marlon is part of the team. And part of his benefit is, hopefully he gets to come to events, gets to hang around with people that we get to hang around with. You know, at times the likes of maybe Blair Singer or Robert Kiyosaki or Tom Wheelwright, some of my mentors. And at the same time, I contract him to run certain areas of our business. So part of that thing that holds, I think, a lot of small to medium-sized, especially small self-employed people back from building a team is that fear of bringing on the wrong people. Just, Michael, find people who you get on with, find people who can do stuff for you, get them to deliver on the stuff you need, create clarity, and start building a team. So Ntlantla says, I'm in the branding and supply of promotional items. How do I maximize and grow my clientele? Ntlantla, first step, you got to sell. Okay, so the first and most important thing in any business is your ability to be able to sell. So, you know, my question to you would be, how clear are you on your sales strategy right now? What is your sales strategy? You know, and what drives your business? So, you know, Ntlantla, maybe if you want, just unmute yourself and I can ask you a couple of questions.
Ntlantla, you're unmuted.
Ntlantla, so what is your current sales strategy? Okay, I don't seem to be able to hear him. Okay, so the key thing to look at, Ntlantla, is within your sales strategy, what are your actions? Because a key thing with any business is, and when I look at the results someone's getting or not getting, the first thing that I look at is this word. What is your activity? What is the daily activity that you focus on to drive results? How many phone calls are you making? How many people are you getting in front of? How many appointments are you setting? Sales in business is an action game. That means you've got to take action. Too many people are sitting back, sending out 10,000 emails, hoping that somebody will read it. Well, if they do, that's great. But you have to take action. If you're not taking action, you're not going to create the results. So, you know, so the first step in sales, Ntlantla, is you've got to get out and you've got to take action. So the questions I'd be asking is, you know, right now, what does your sales funnel look like? How many people do you have? How many people do you have in your sales funnel? So if we look at a basic sales funnel, right at the top is leads. How are you generating leads? You know, there's a number of ways to generating leads. So how are you generating leads? For a small to medium-sized business, there's a couple of key ways you can generate leads. One, you get on the phone. Two, you do some cold calling. Phone calling and cold calling. You get out, you start meeting people every single day. You go to networking events, connecting with people. You go to events, seminars, so you connect with like-minded people. And what happens is you start creating and generating leads. Now, this piece in the funnel is largely around marketing. So that's where marketing and sales comes in. So, you know, one of our trainers, Delian, who's on this call, she runs a really great course which is called Finding and Building Your Avatar, which really starts at the top of the lead funnel, which is about How do you find customers? And then what are the activities once you're clear on those customers, who are they? So in your funnel, the first thing is you need leads. The second thing, is what are the activities that come in here? So what are the activities that you undertake through this in order to drive the results out of the bottom? Now that would be various. That would be calls, appointments, demos, all those type of things. And so once you got clarity on that, then you couple it with really understanding and mastering on the one side your skill, and on the other side your mindset. Because you can learn a whole lot of skill, but if you don't have the right mindset, you'll struggle to implement the skill. If you work on your mindset, you will go find the right skills to do. So Ntlantla, hopefully that adds a little bit of value to you. Did that help? And does that answer your question? Excellent. Thank you for that. So the next question is from Martin. I was interested by the communications part of sales. As such, as my business is more technical contact than pure sales. So Martin, why don't you give me a little bit more context around what you mean in technical contact? If you'd like, Marlon will unmute you and we can have a discussion around what you mean around technical contact.
Martin, please try from your side because it doesn't seem like, okay, wait, I think.
There we go.
There we go.
So Martin, how's it? What do you mean when you say your business is more technical contact than pure sales? What do you mean?
Well, we meet most of our clients through technical ability and selling our technical ability rather than just pure sales.
Okay, so I come out of the school of thought that sales is sales. Whether you're selling high-end nuclear rockets or whether you're selling toothpaste, a core fundamental of sale is, can you connect with people?
Okay. Yeah. If I may say, so far I have been, but now the market has changed a lot, and we need to refocus, I guess, on new clients.
Okay. So again, I'll go back to so let me go back to the sales funnel. First step is, are you very clear on who your potential customer base is?
Yeah. There are very few of them actually, because it is specialized. So
okay, so
you can name them one.
You have a very specialized product with a very small niche customer base.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, good. Do you have a short or a long sales cycle?
Reasonably long, in the sense that it's about anything from 2-3 months to about 6-8 months.
Okay, so anywhere from 2 to 8 months, so about half a year. Okay. Okay, great. So your sales cycle. So at the end of the day, you know, I look at it. I look at sales like this: is that there's a couple of key components to sales. The very first thing is in order to sell anything, you've got to be able to do a couple of these things. One is you've got to be able to solve a problem. So in a technical game, I'm going to hazard a guess that your product solves a problem. Yes.
That's correct most of the time. Yeah.
Okay, good. So the second part is, you've obviously got to, well, obviously, I say obviously, that's not a great word because nothing is ever obvious. You've got to be able to have a solution that links to the problem, yes?
Yeah, correct, yes.
Okay, now a key thing, guys, some of you might be sitting going, this is really simple. Sales is a very simple game, but we complicate it because we think too much. So, you know, I've been in sales just over probably nearly 27 years, and all too often people think way too much. So this is a 5-step sales system. The first thing is you've got to have a problem. Second thing is you've got to have a solution. The third thing is there has to be a benefit to the customer. once there's a benefit to the customer, the fourth thing is there's got to be an offering. So you have to be able to make an offer, and then 5, you got to be able to close the deal. Now, just because you think that your solution can solve the problem doesn't mean that the client thinks that their solution will solve the problem. So where I see a lot of people getting stuck is they go in and they sell, but they sell by doing this. They go in and they tell, and they tell, and they tell, and sometimes hopefully they tell the offer, and then they can't close because they haven't really connected with the client to find out what the client really wants. So doesn't, you know, I believe this, and in my experience, it doesn't matter what you're selling. Now, I've sold things from pretty highly technical products to very simple products like books, and the process is exactly the same. When you can link to someone's problem and find out that it's their problem without telling them it's their problem. So the art of sales is can you ask questions to link all these things together. So, you know, in the technical side, Martin, what I see where a lot of people struggle in sales is they do a lot of telling. The more technical the product becomes, the more people tell. So I see, you know, the more elaborate PowerPoint presentations become, the more sort of harder to understand the jargon becomes. Whereas my belief is this: the more technical it is, the more you need to connect with people around their problem and their solution, but it's got to be their problem and their solution. It's got to be their benefit. Does that make sense, Martin?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, thanks.
So you know, the key is in sales is shifting from telling to shifting to asking questions. So developing a series of questions that you can ask that will connect the client to your problem, that will connect them or connect their problem to your solution, and that will allow you to uncover their benefit. You know, if you sit with a group of people and you offer them one product and ask them what the benefit would be, you know, out of 10 people, you could get 10 different benefits. What happens with a lot of salespeople, they go out there and they start selling on the benefit that they think is important. And that's often where they get shut down. So, you know, sales for me, Martin, I love that word communication, because sales is about communication. You know, I think a lot of times when people hear the word sales, this view of I need to convince people to take stuff that they don't need comes up. You know, this view of hard closing salespeople trying to convince people to take stuff that they don't need. But the art of sales is you know, the more you can convince someone, the better you're going to sell. I don't really believe that. In fact, not really. I do not believe that sales is that. Sales is the art of communication, is the art of connecting with other people. You know, a guy called Daniel Pink, for me, says it the best. He says, sales is the art of moving people. So whether you want to move people politically, whether you want to move people business-wise, whether you want to move your family to be able to do the things that you need them to do, or whether you want to move customers, it's all about the art of moving people, which is the art of communications. The greatest salespeople in the world are the greatest communicators. The greatest leaders are the greatest salespeople. They're also the greatest communicators. You know, if you go back in history and you look at the likes of Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, incredible communicators. And as such, they were incredible salespeople. They sold people into huge visions and got people to do things that otherwise they wouldn't have done. Does that make sense, Martin? Does that add any value to you?
Yes, oh, great. Thank you very much, Barry. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Great question. Thank you. So Anthony says, yeah, a few times a month he feels, I'm going to hazard a guess, Anthony, that was called overwhelmed. Yeah. Okay, good. So Deleon says, what advice do you have on overcoming the objection of next year, not now? Okay, good. So that's a great question. So the art of handling objections comes in two forms. So Deleon, what is the art of handling objections? There are two parts to it. What would they be?
Thanks, Barry. Yes, they are, as you teach, it is acknowledging and then asking a question.
Okay, good. So if you get the objection, not now, next year, how would you use that technique to handle the objection?
So I understand. Why would next year be a better time for you?
Okay, good. What else?
Okay. Why? What would happen if you do it now?
Okay, good. What else?
That makes sense. What would the effect be on your team if you could get the results earlier?
Okay, good. Very good. Okay, what other questions could you ask?
What's stopping you from doing it now?
Okay, good. Very good. So just a couple as you're going through that I'm thinking of is a question that I would ask is something like, yeah, I understand that you could leave it and postpone it to next year. However, let me ask you this. If you got it done now, do you not think it would give your team an opportunity to hit January running?
Absolutely. Great. Thanks, Barry. Great example. Thank you.
Okay, good. So great. Thank you for that question. So while we're talking about objections, the art of handling objections is pretty simple. Acknowledge, ask a question. The core skill is asking questions. Get in their world, find out about them. Most people get into the side of telling. You've got to revert from telling and get into asking questions. But that takes a lot of practice. So Susan says, if you already have people working for you who refuse to join the team but hold on for the paycheck, we're working on a code of honor. Some just refuse and stay negative. Other team members are taking a strain. Susan, for me, it's pretty simple. If you don't fit into my team, then you must leave. And I know that that's pretty hard. And so, you know, for me, when I build a team, I'm always looking for people who are prepared to play on the team like we play. Do we have issues in our team? Often. But we're all focused on mission. We have a code of honor. In fact, my team and I sat down just before I went away to the US, and we revisited our code of honor and pulled it out and made sure everyone was on the same page. But at the end of the day, like any team, you can't afford to have people on your team or who are not prepared to be on the team. And that's the hardest part of leading for me. I just believe one of the hardest parts of leading, one of the hardest parts of building a business team is dealing with the people who do not pull their weight. You know, working with people that are excited and want to come to work, that's the easy stuff. The hard part is holding people accountable. So, you know, I've learned in my world, I've got to be clear on what I mean by accountability. And then I have to be very clear on holding those people accountable. And I know that there's often, I know with me over the years, little voices come up, and it's much easier, you know, to not deal with the negative people, to not deal with the negative performers, and just, you know, focus on the positive performers and hope that the negative performers will change. The reality is, unless we create the environment or put the environment in place to get them to change, they're not going to change. So part of it is, yeah, you know, I'm excited that you're working on your code of honor. So put a code of honor in place, get people to buy into that code of honor, involve everybody in the team around a code of honor. You know, even the negative people, as you're building your code of honor, you've got to involve them so that they have a say in the code of honor. So once they have a say in the code of honor and everyone buys into it, you know, then you can hold them to it. If you just building the code of honor yourself and you're not involving them, then it'll just come down to this. They'll say, well, we didn't agree with that. That was just your rules. So you got to bring everybody in. The other side is environment is greater than will. You know, so this for me is exceptionally powerful when you are building teams. If you really understand this, and it's this: environment is greater than will, which means if you stick and hold the environment, what will happen is ultimately you will change people. And what will happen is either people will change to fit into the environment or they will leave the environment. You don't have to be a stick wielding, dictator in order to create change. In fact, you can manage your emotions, you can stay calm, you can drive up a high excited energy and still deal with negative people. But it's if you set the right context, if you set the right set of rules, if you create the right expectation around the environment, that will allow you to be able to drive home the accountability. Does that make sense, Susan? If you want to unmute and ask me any questions around that while we're on this topic, that might be benefit to everybody building a team. Okay, so that makes sense. Yeah, so just again, environment is greater than will. Set the environment, hold the environment, be clear on your expectations. You don't have to be. A lot of people, look, it comes down to this. It's the difference between, if you've been in any of my rooms, you would have seen me talk about this: nice versus kind. Most people want to be nice, and we run a team. It's like, if we could be nice and if everyone could be nice, it isn't nice. But it's about being kind, and sometimes to be kind to the organization, to be kind to the team members that are really positive, you've got to do the hard things, and some of those hard things are getting rid of people that don't fit on the team. It happens in all teams. If you look at sport, people don't fit in, they move on. So that's one of the hardest things about building a team. Great question, thank you. So Michael, how would you break into a market when you're an unknown brand and there are already other well-known brands who are already in your market space? Michael, great question. Pretty simple. Get out and sell. The hardest part of doing business is getting into new markets. It's doing the grind work of getting out and calling on customers and understanding that in any process, there's a couple of key things. One, it takes time. So you've got to put in the time. You've got to put in the time visiting clients, calling. Most people just don't do enough work. No, not most people are not busy. Many people running businesses are flipping busy all the time, but they're busy doing the wrong stuff. Robert says this: are you building a busyness, or you're building a business? How many of you realize that for most of us, a lot of times we are just too busy? So you got to go out there and you got to be spending time doing the right activity. So in breaking into a new market, it's connecting with potential clients. Being in there, finding out about them, connecting. And to start off with, it's not about selling. However, you're never not selling. Let me explain that a little bit more. So it's not about, too many people walk in and they want to close a deal on the first date. That doesn't happen. Very rarely. It takes, in sales, it takes anywhere from 6 to 12, 15 connects. If you want relationship game, dates before you close a deal. So a lot of times people aren't doing that. They walk into a customer, they think they've got a great product, they pitch it to the client, tell the client why they're so good, and they expect the client to buy it. Why would the client buy it? They don't know you, they don't have trust in you, they've never met you. You're a new boy on the block. And this is not only just for Michael, this is for all of us. So you've got to get in there and you've got to spend the time. And then what you're waiting for is you're waiting for this magic thing called timing. People will buy when the timing is right for them, not when the timing is right for you. I'll say it again. People will buy when the timing is right for them, not when the timing is right for you. But if you are not around when their timing is right, you will not make the sale. So you've got to spend the time, and you've got to be around for when the timing is right. And what happens is you will create a lag period. There's a lag between everything in life. Lag is a generalized principle. Lag is something that happens it is true to all areas of life. There's always a lag. So you've got to spend the time, and the time that it took you from the first time you met the client to when the timing is right is called lag. Now, people misunderstand lag. There's lag in everything. I mean, I can remember, in Zimbabwe, when I was, one of the first businesses I started was in the safety industry, and I spent 8 months calling on a client, 8 months. But that client wasn't around the corner. That client was at Wanky Colliery, which was close to the Vic Falls. I lived in Harare, which meant once a month, on a Monday, I used to fly into the falls, hire a car, drive to the colliery, spend 5 days on the colliery. Not only did I spend 5 days on the colliery, but I actually did a whole lot of work for them for free. So I served them. I wrote them a huge report around personal protective equipment. I took thousands and thousands of rands worth of equipment that I tested, and it took me 8 months before I closed my first deal. That is lag. My business partners were saying to me, dude, what is going on? You're spending a lot of time up in the falls, but you're not doing any business. When I eventually closed the deal, when the timing was right, I moved at least a 40-foot container in for my first order, and I controlled, I controlled that market when it came to safety for 3 years. But it was the time and the timing. And fortunately, I understood lag. And the more I have spent as an entrepreneur, the more years I spent in sales, the more I see it come true. If you understand time and timing. So Michael, the key component is you got to get there, and you just got to sell it. You've got to be in the places all the time. You got to get to know people. People do business with people they like. You got to get to know people. You got to find out what are they using. You got to find out their problems. You got to uncover what solutions they're thinking about. You got to uncover why would it benefit them to have you. What would be the reason? And you got to be around when their timing is right. So hopefully that answers that, Michael. So Anthony, how do you set this up with your clients? We'll give context now. I work in a service industry where clients require me at their office, and experience that some of their teams are very negative, and I struggle setting up the code in their teams. This was in relation to the team code of honor and negative people. Anthony, great question, because this is applicable for people like consultants, for accountants, for bookkeepers, for those type of people that go in and to work in other people's businesses. So pretty simple. Right up front, set up a code of honor, set up a set of rules. Bring everyone together who you're working with and say, this is how I work. This is how I intend to do the job. This is the reason. Are you guys happy with that? Can we hold each other accountable? And you set the context right up front. So a lot of times the problem is we don't set the context. So we don't set up the rules. We come in and we think, oh, I don't want to rock the boat, so I'll just play it nicely. And there's things right up front that irritate the crap out of us. We don't deal with them. And then those are the things that bite us on the backside down the line. So exactly like when you're working with the team, when you go in and you're working with a client, you set up a code of honor. Now remember, the code of honor is based on these things. It's based on behaviors. So Anthony, just do you want to unmute yourself, and I'll do a little bit of a role play and give you an example of setting up a code of honor with the client.
Okay.
Anthony, how you doing, buddy?
Good, and you, Barry?
Sweet, thanks, chum. So look, let's do a little role play around. I'm going to come into your business and I'm going to do some sales coaching, okay, for you and your team. Okay, so the first person, I would start with you. So how I do it is I do it something like this. So Anthony, one of the reasons you brought me in is to help you and your sales team generate more income, yes?
Yes.
Okay, good. So would you agree that in order to get better results come from the things that we do, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I'm determined to really give you great results, and I'm going to hazard a guess that you're determined for me to give you great results for the money you're paying me, yes?
Yes.
Okay, good. So is it okay that you and I set up a set of rules that determines how you and I are going to behave while I'm working with you in the business right up front?
Yes, that will be fine.
Okay, excellent. I don't know. Let's start off with something like time. Do you like it when people are late?
No, I don't.
Okay, good. Could you and I make an agreement that time is important to both of us?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. So Anthony, can you see what I'm doing? I set up that code of honor by asking questions, getting their world, getting him to buy into it. What I would do is I'd get you to buy into 7 or 8, 9 different rules around the behaviors that we really want. You know, things like time, agreements, payments, those type of things.
Yes.
Okay. Once I've got his buy-in, then I would say, look, is it okay if you and I sit down and just for the course while I'm working with you and your team, that you and your team come together and we set up a set of rules for how I'm going to play with them and they're going to play with me. And you do the same thing.
Okay.
So you don't come in and say, so I wouldn't come in and say, Anthony, when I work with you, I despise being late. So I'm not going to tolerate you being late. As the client, what are you going to think of me?
Yeah, I'm going to be annoyed with that.
100%. But if I put it in a question to say, you know, Anthony, I don't know about you, but is time important to you? Yes, it is. Okay, good. So you would question it. So you go, yeah, I think that would be important. Okay, good. Could we have an agreement around time? Could we have an agreement around agreements? Could we have an agreement around deliverables? Could we have an agreement around language? Could we have an agreement? Could we have an agreement around sorting out problems? If you have a problem with me, you come direct. Those type of things.
Yes, no, I understand. Okay.
Okay. Does that help?
Yeah, no, that helps a lot.
Okay, good. Great question. Thank you. So, anyone else have any questions or comments on what we've talked about this evening?
I have a comment, Barry, and something that was reminded to me earlier when you were working with answering Michael's question. I remembered it was a process that you did in Little Voice Mastery, as well as it's one of the processes that Nicole does as well. When you have like all this stuff in your head and you actually take it out and you put it on a piece of paper, and it's a simple process, but gee whiz, it like left me so light. And it's something that really helps me to just decompress everything that's in the mind.
100%. You know, how many of you realize we think too much? And there's just so much stuff going on in our heads. You know, you got to think less, feel more, be more. And that, you know, goes back to Michael's first question around overwhelm. That's the problem with most times when people get overwhelmed. They actually just think they're overwhelmed. They're not actually overwhelmed. Look, how many of you have been overwhelmed, yet you know you have a problem procrastinating? So you're sitting around worrying about how much flipping business you have and who you got to get hold of. And everything's so on top of me, but you're sitting on your couch worrying about what you should be doing, but not doing what you should be doing. How many of you can connect with what I've just said?
Yeah, big time.
So it's all this. So, you know, what Marlon's talking about is when you feel like that, you just stop, take a piece of paper, write it all down, put it in a list, unpack it. It's just, you just unpack what's in your head. It's not even a to-do list. It's just a list of stuff that's in your head. Then you look at the list and say, okay, good. What can I do right now? I can do that. Good. Go and do it. Or what's the most important thing that I need to get done right now with this list? This. Go do it. And what happens is you find that either, you know, I have fun doing this. I go back and look at lists I made 6 months ago and I go, crap, why did I even write that down? It was so irrelevant, but I thought it was so important. Yet when I get to the things that are really needed to be done, the actions that need to be done, everything else falls away. You know, so, you know, business, there's some critical things that need to be done. And when you focus on the few core things, everything else works. And you know, we're in this world of there's so much noise coming at us all the time, especially as entrepreneurs and self-employed people. It's like, I should be doing this and I should be doing that. And then you get on a webinar, then you go to some event and some guy's talking about the next 5 steps to become the greatest millionaire in the next 5 days if you do this. And then you just blow your mind. And then you actually just don't go and do what you should be doing, which is pick up the phone, make some calls, get in front of people, start selling your product, start connecting with them, start finding out their problems and matching your solution, and just doing the work that it requires, which is getting in front of people to connect with people, building relationships. When you do that over a period of time, when you put in the right time, the right timing comes and things suddenly come through. But when we think too much and we have too much on the go, I don't know about you, but I end up doing very little. So, unpack it. Marlon's great point. Thank you for that, Marlon. Great feedback. So, Irishan, do customers look for credibility as a startup? Is first developing an online presence and referrals important? So, Irishan, customers always look for credibility. Customers always look for credibility. But you don't have to develop an online presence and create referrals if you've just started your business. So, Irishan, why don't you unmute yourself and I'll ask you a couple of questions. So, Irishan, what's your business?
Hi there, Barry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, how you doing, dude? What's your business?
Consultancy, technical consultancy.
Okay, so expand on that a little bit more. So you have technical means what? What, you build rockets?
We could do that.
You sound like a typical SME desperate for money. I'll do whatever you want me to do.
I actually do that sometimes, but yeah, it's
what is your core business?
Engineering consultancy, providing a review of technical specifications and writing up specifications and designs.
Okay, good. How long have you had your business?
This 1 year for about, well, it's registered for just over a year.
Okay, good. How long have you been operating?
Not really at the moment. I'm just starting out with it.
So you just,
I'm
that's
just
cool.
setting
So
it up.
you're just starting it up. Okay, good.
It's
How many
like
people in the
brand new.
business? Okay, good. How many people in the business?
I'm the only one as a director, but I've got a list of consultants that's about 15 strong that I'm using,
so you
mainly retired people, etc.
Okay, good. So you have a team of consultants. Okay, good. So how long have you been in the technical consulting industry?
Well, I've been in this industry for over a decade, I would say.
Okay, good. So you already have credibility. So immediately, hi, my name is Irishan. I represent company ABC, and I have over 10 years experience in the engineering technical consulting arena. I work with a team of 15 highly qualified, experienced consultants, and we help do A, B, and C.
Okay.
You have credibility. Just because your business is 1 week old or it hasn't generated any sense doesn't mean you don't have any credibility. It just means that your business is very new, but you have a lot of credibility. When I first started teaching and training sales, I didn't have any credibility as a sales trainer because I just started. But I had 15 years credibility. I'd been in sales. I'd built my own businesses. I'd run a sales team of 60 plus people, and I drew on that credibility. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, because, it's just thinking about it. How do you do your first sale on your own when you've done the work, but for somebody else, all your life? Getting over that first hurdle for somebody, say, okay, I'm going to give you that opportunity to do this for me.
Yeah, so you have the credibility for the past decade. That's what you've been doing. You also have a team of 15 consultants, and what I heard is many of them are retired, which means they have decades of experience, which is great. Yes. So when I first started training, I just drew on Blair. I just said, look, I partner with Blair Singer, who's one of the world's top sales and team development trainers around the world, and has been doing that for 20 years. I just drew on his credibility as part of his team.
Yeah, because what I did is that I went to people that I knew that are senior in the industry, and some of them that I've worked with previously, and said, guys, what are you all doing? You know, you've got all this experience. Are you willing to give me some part-time if I give some work to you all? And quite a lot of them said, you know, cool, that's great. You know, we will do that if you give us some work, you know,
Here we go.
because semi-retired, retired. So that's what I'm looking in the sense that somebody will only look at me and my experience. Now I'm bringing in a team of people with a lot of competencies and experience to add on more credibility. And I'm using that as a leverage tool because I don't have the history of this company having any business. So I'm using people's
Here we go.
resources.
Okay, good. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Very good. When you come to Sales Explosion, we'll teach you that even more.
Yes, no, definitely I'm coming for that.
Good job. Well done. Thank you for that. So, any other questions before we wrap it up? Any other comments? Did you guys get value from tonight? So I'll show you guys my t-shirt. I just come back from Bangkok. I just love this t-shirt. I don't know if you can see. The rich do not work for money. It's one of these days. Awesome. So just some of you are already joining us on the 7th of November. I'm running a one-day sales strategy event. It's at Wanderers. See if Maury can just throw up the details for those of you that might be interested in joining us. It's not a big room. It's a very small sort of what do you call it? Intimate workshop, probably about 20 people. So it's sales strategy and systems program. And really, the purpose of the day is I will be taking the team through really how to build a funnel and get clarity on creating a sales strategy and plan in a very simple one-page sales strategy. So those of you that are not coming, that might be interested in joining us, just click on the link. You can book and come and join us there. And then the other thing that I'm really excited about is to let you guys know is that on the 3rd of December, I have Robert Kiyosaki coming out to Johannesburg. And for the first time, not his first time here, he's been here a lot, but for the first time, Uncovering Greatness gets to Robert publicly. I had him out here a couple of months ago when he came out with Success Resources, and I had him to do got to work with him for an evening with a program that we're running on called Awaken Your Financial Genius. And the Awaken Your Financial Genius people got to spend some time with him. But this time is the first time that I actually get to host him and speak with him in a public event that, as Uncovering Greatness, we are putting on and running ourselves. So I'm super excited about that. It's a very inexpensive event. It'll be on Monday, the 3rd of December from 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. It's at the Wanderers Club. There's tickets available anywhere from one ticket if you want to buy a ticket for yourself or for you and your spouse or partner to seats, groups of 5 or groups of 10. And if you do it now, the price is under 500 Rand per head. So, I just, the question I'm going to ask you is what are you thinking about for the future? Where are you going financially? What is the world becoming when we look at business and where it's going? And, just having spent the last 3 days in Phoenix with Robert and some of his Rich Dad advisors, he's teaching some really powerful stuff around where we need to go at the moment and what we need to do. So, if you're an entrepreneur, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to become looking at financial freedom, creating wealth, then I'm going to encourage you, come and join us on the 3rd of December, 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. And it'll be, when I say a relatively small room, there'll be a couple of hundred people in that room. So it's not going to be a 2,000 or 3,000 seater event. There'll be a couple of hundred people in that room. And yeah, very excited to have him with us for the day. So come and join us there. So that's two events that we got coming up. pretty soon. Other than that, I will be on my way to, where am I going? Zurich tomorrow, and I'll be back on the 5th of November. And then we have Nicole, my wife's mindset coach. She's also the mindset coach to Robert Kiyosaki, Blair Singer, and a number of the advisors, a lady called Seal Stanford. She's coming out to do a 2-day program that she's never done in South Africa called Life Enhancement. And so those of you that are in the coaching industry, the training environment, she teaches some incredible stuff around mindset. So if any of you would be interested in that, just type into the chat LE and your phone number, and Mari or myself or Nicole will be in touch. Just type in the chat box LE and your phone number, and we'll go from there. So there, as Mari says, 495 Rand per person. There's some group rates with 5 and 10% discount. So it's less than 500 Rand to come and spend 3.5 hours with Robert Kiyosaki. So yeah, just the more I get to spend around him, the more time, the more I learn, the more he pushes me. And I had some amazing nuggets. So in our next webinar, I will be sharing one of the key things that I got out of the week or the 3 days that we spent in Phoenix with him. So that pretty much brings to an end our Tuesday night Entrepreneur Hangout webinar. Really great having you guys with me, and with Marlon and Mari, and with the Uncovering Greatness team. And if you guys get value out of this, please, I'm going to encourage you to please forward this on to other entrepreneurs, to other business owners, to other people that are looking at creating wealth and making a change in their businesses and in their lives of businesses and others. Please forward it on to them, encourage them to join us. It is free, and hopefully you got a lot of value. So thank you for being with us tonight. Really enjoyed being with you. And I am going to hand over back to Marlon. So Marlon, back to you, dude. Thank you.
Thanks, Barry. Always insightful. Thank you very much for the questions. I thought this was a very engaging evening for everybody. So once again, you'll find the recording of this on the website. Just go to the resource section, go to the webinars, and you'll catch all of the webinars. So yes, thank you very much for this evening. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you in how much time? In like 2 weeks, right? Or is it good? Because now we're at the end of the week already. So I'm a little bit.
Yeah, it'll be in 2 weeks from today.
All right. So see you guys in 2 weeks, where we'll be talking more about the financial side of life, and looking forward to catching you all then. Cheers.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye.